Right, before we get going, let us hear some stories of either from you amazing coaches who are taking part today in terms of any sessions you've had that have been amazing, or people who have received a session so far. How has it been? Because we like to hear your stories. What have we got? What have we got? Anybody willing to come on? Harriet, come on, you share.
Oh, it's been amazing. I've had 3 sessions so far, and I've got another, or if I had 4, I've literally, my brain is going to melt down, I think. However, they have just been so amazing, from reconnecting people with their joy and telling them that it's not worth, no company would love them enough to make, one poor woman I spoke to was working 21 hours a day sometimes. And I was like, let's get you back in touch with your joy and all of that. And then to another lady who had a massive flash of inspiration about what she's actually supposed to be doing. So that was really exciting too. Really, really exciting. Just giving people the confidence.
It's so lovely when you get that moment, isn't it? When it just happens. It's just like really, it touches me in my heart really when you just see that really going on. Awesome. Well done. Anyone else?
I had a great session this morning. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Mel.
No, I'll be really quick. I had a great session first thing this morning, talking about all things mindfulness, and it set me up for a great day.
Marvellous. Marvellous. I love a bit of mindfulness. I did a mindfulness training once, and she got us to eat a raisin. That was it. And we had to, and it took about 10 minutes to eat this raisin because we had to talk all about the textures and normally if you like me, I just shove them in and that's filled the spot. Whereas it was a really good example of how you sort of slow down and just be aware of what is going on around you. It was really good, actually. It was really powerful. Good. Alrighty. Well, let me do a big warm welcome to our 3 people on our panel today. We've got Nadine and Liz and Harriet. A very, very warm welcome to you. And thank you, because you're all coaches and you're all taking part in this amazing day. We will let you know at the end the latest figures, because it just keeps going up through the day and it's just amazing and it's brilliant to see. And I just to say that this session is all about well-being, resilience, and I know Liz is a specialist in careers, so we're going to be looking at all that kind of stuff from a coach's lens, and we're going to give you some top tips and thoughts around what we do. So I would like to introduce our international panel. No woohoo, you're all on silent, but I heard the woohoo. And it's brilliant. As I said this morning, we've got 220 something coaches have signed up in 32 countries, which is kind of incredible. It really is. It's an insane thing that we are, coaching for 24 hours. I'm hoping we might get in the Guinness Book of Records the number of coaching sessions that have happened in a day. How amazing would that be? I don't know even if there is a record, but we're going to set it. We'll set the standard. So on that note, I would like each of you to introduce yourselves, please, and just say a little bit about what you do, what your passion is, and why you're happy to be here today. I feel a bit like Cilla Black on Blind Date. And I like to do alphabetical, so I have to work out. Harriet is before Liz. So Harriet, you're first. Tell us a bit about you.
There we go. Would help if I unmuted myself, wouldn't it? So I'm a change catalyst, and I'm changing the world in 2 different ways. Firstly, from the top down, creating a world culturally and within organizations culturally where it's possible for women to fulfill their potential, because I think there's a lot of forces at play at the moment that are not helpful necessarily. And then from the bottom up, I empower women to own their brilliance and succeed. That's what I do. I'm also a mother of 2 boys, and I have a cockapoo who has the same hair as me. She's asleep on the floor behind me, so I hope the doorbell doesn't ring or she's going to join in with the conversation. And I do lots of public speaking, workshops, talks, webinars, that kind of thing. And I also run transformation programs. So that's a bit about me and why I'm happy to be here today. Well, I love microloan, and I love changing women's lives and helping them to believe in themselves. And I think that what microloan does is absolutely incredible in terms of empowering women and creating change that ripples, you know, whether that's children's education, healthcare, communities, just creating futures where women no longer have to be controlled by anyone else because they've got their own money and they can be in charge of their own destiny. And it's just the perfect match, really. Coaching people, raising money for something like microloan. Yeah, absolutely. And I've got this funny feeling I might have been responsible in some way because I introduced you and Geeta. I've got a feeling that somehow I'm involved in the birth.
We did a leadership festival. We met on a program together, didn't we, Harriet? And then you said to me, you need to meet Geeta. And that, yeah, so you were the catalyst for this, actually. It's down to you.
Not really.
If I'd not met Geeta, this would not have happened. So
yeah, so Geeta's a really good friend of mine and love her to bits. We've had lots of adventures together, and yeah, she's an amazing woman as well. And
you haven't met Geeta, she's the chairwoman of the Women's Development Board, which is a part of the microloan charity world. Yeah. Which so I met her. She said, "Come and join us." So great. She said, "Now raise some money." I went, "What?" So that was the fun the fun thing. So thank you, Harriet. Lovely that you're here. Liz, we'll come to you next.
Thank you. That's kind of a hard act to follow because I am the outsider from Los Angeles. And so my friends and social media posts are like, what are you doing in Africa? Like, what's going on? Where is this program going? So I've had some explaining to do, but I'm a life coach. My background is career counseling. So my academic path took me from psychology to a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling. And so I've been career coaching at Department of Rehabilitation for injured workers, to high school students going off to college, to teaching at Pepperdine and doing consulting for UCLA and USC, which are state schools here in Los Angeles. And so my passion is really to coach people from where they are to where they don't know they want to be. So most of my clients come to me at break point, and sometimes they're on the edge about to quit or get fired, and they just know that they need a better life. And so I do a lot of what's called outplacement, where companies will bring me in because they're downsizing, they're laying people off. So I'm also a speaker, and COVID came and about 15 speaking engagements just disappeared off the calendar. And so I had to turn to Zoom. And then Marriott Hotels said, we're laying off all these people. Can you coach them and help them find other jobs? And so that kept me very busy. And now it's the great resignation. And through all of this, I'm an extrovert. I'm very optimistic. I'm very positive. So I'm always telling my clients that really how I help them is I help them become values-based decision makers, because they feel like they're in the hallway of life and they don't know which door to open or where to go through. And one of the things I love to do is take them from where they are to the possibilities and then encourage them to go forward. So it's a pleasure to be here. It's a lot of fun to be here. I am excited to be on Zoom. And as my mother would say, I have a bit of a bad travel habit. So if I am ever in Egypt, I'll be looking you up and if anybody comes to Los Angeles, it's a fly through. If you're on your way anywhere, stop in Los Angeles. I'm about 10 minutes from LAX airport in a small beach town called Playa del Rey. And if I can get my 22 and 24-year-old boys who are out of college to move out of the house, then I'd actually have a guest room. But that's a little bit about my background, and I'm pleased to be here.
We could be creating the Coachathon Airbnb, couldn't we? I mean, how cool would that be? That we all kind of circle the world and stay with each other and share our houses. I like that. There you go.
Bring it on.
Another idea seeded.
I'll share the platform on all my speaking engagements. I'll introduce you to ICFLA, and we'll take the city by storm, and then we'll go to Disneyland.
Oh, that's brilliant. It's fabulous you're with us, Liz. I know it's quite early for you, isn't it? And you've not even had your coffee. I can't believe that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Really great to meet you and have you here. And Nadine, let's welcome you to our panel.
Thank you. I've noticed that we all have two sons. I don't know, some weird coincidence, but we know girls. You've got one. No, but for me, for Harriet and Liz, I've got also two teenage boys. So I started off in career in corporate, marketing, business development, business excellence. And then suddenly the last position in business excellence, I was really working more with people with leadership development, their coaching, mentoring. And I really felt a shift happened. I'm no longer happy launching products or making successes and having more profits. That was no longer it for me, you know. It's the people. It's seeing the impact that you can have on people and letting, you know, seeing one person shining in the company and getting awards because of your work with her. That for me was really transformational. So I was part of a restructure a couple of years ago, and that was like, all right, I didn't take it so well at the very beginning, but then now I have the chance to do all the things I wanted to do, but I never had the time to do it. So I'm doing plenty of stuff right now. So while I was working, I published my own book. So I'm an authorpreneur. So I wrote a book, and I'm a speaker also. I'm a mentor with several global entities and a coach. And I'm being certified currently for being a happiness coach. And I'm also a social enterprise facilitator. So actually talking from a classroom in a school in the other side of Cairo, because we're having an award ceremony right now for the high school students who actually build social enterprises. And one of them is going to, you know, they're going to get awards, and we're going to, you know, give them mentoring. And it's really inspiring to see students doing things. And we just, you know, it sparked them. They did everything. Just as a facilitator, you're just there to spark it, just like a coach at the end of the day. So for me, this is so fulfilling. And so for me, that is why I love coaching. And that's why I'm here, because for me, it's the highest satisfaction is to actually make an impact, make a difference with somebody. My coaching session this morning, when the lady said, I want to hug you at the very end, you made my day, you know, my week, probably. End of the day, having this impact on people is... it's amazing. I love it. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, not at all, not at all. Fab to have you. So I think where I'd like to start the conversation is in the context of what the world has been through in the last couple of years. Obviously, the horrificness of COVID and the impact that's had on businesses, on individuals, and in terms of their overall well-being and their overall ability to kind of stay sane through all of it. What have been your experiences in the last couple of years when you've been coaching in that space? What have you been noticing about what's been going on, and maybe where the kind of leadership journey is heading? I know Liz just mentioned there the Great Resignation. Perhaps we can touch on that as well. But let's just do a kind of big picture piece first around what have you seen as coaches, given what's happened in the world. Don't mind which one of you kicks that one off.
Happy to jump in.
Thanks, Harriet.
Yeah, I think a few things became very apparent in the first part of the pandemic, which was that an awful lot of people realized that when you strip out their ability to be busy the entire time, they're not actually very happy, and they don't like their lives, and they don't feel very fulfilled. It was that thing of now go and sit in your room and contemplate your life. It's like, well, if I can't dash about constantly doing 50 things at once and having a phone call on my way to buy my lunch and meeting someone for drinks on the way home from work and listening to a podcast every time I'm on public transport and packing my weekend so full that I haven't got a free weekend until this time next year kind of thing, then it was very much this awareness of, and the slowdown, I think, forced people to take stock of their lives, to perhaps realize the value of doing less, and to question the whole productivity push, actually, and whether more is more really more. And I think there's a real pushback now in fact, every single conversation I've had today, people have been talking about work-life balance. Whereas I would have said 2 years ago, I don't know if that would be something people would have necessarily said. And nowadays, I think it feels like there's a much greater craving for meaning, for fulfillment, way beyond career, and a redefinition of what success is. Like, and it was actually the lady I mentioned earlier, who's been sometimes working 21 hours a day. We both agreed that success that comes at the expense of your well-being isn't success, and that success has to include well-being. I think companies have been realizing that as well, vastly on a level that they've never realized it before, in a kind of smack you in the face sort of way. I would say
isn't it, actually, Harriet, when you think about the fact that we've all been given more time in our day, because we don't have to commute. Hurrah! Yes. A bit like the start of email means we will now be so much more efficient in the office and we won't need to work as hard. And of course, what happens is we just send more emails out, and it was exactly the same as it was before, only it was on there, not on my desk. And I feel the same has happened here, hasn't it? That we suddenly got this time to do. And to your point, everybody's so blooming busy, and love, that's part of their identity, that what happens when they're not? Well, I'll just fill the time because I've got to keep being busy. So I'll start at 8 o'clock and I'll work through till 6 rather than having that downtime and thinking time. So yeah, I think it's fascinating. Love that. Thank you. Okay, Nadine, Liz, who wants to go next?
Well, I think the last 20 months has really challenged everybody to think a little differently. And a lot of the way they used to do things is now an upheaval. And so it's sort of that resilience to change and acknowledging that change is constant, change is happening, and people need to sort of take 2 steps back to evaluate where they are and really think through what they want. And for many of the clients that I work with, they're not used to that. They're used to somebody else, a boss, a parent, somebody else sort of setting the stage for them. And they're not used to having to be the captain of their own ship. They would rather kind of float down the river and have things happen. And sometimes I look back at their resumes and I say, well, how did you get this opportunity? How did you get this opportunity? And, oh, my parents helped me get that job, or, you know, my boss promoted me, and then my other boss took me with them to their new company. And then clients are having to sort of really make decisions on their own of where exactly am I going and what exactly do I want to do? And now there's almost more opportunities, because if you take location off the list, I know in Los Angeles, I used to coach my clients, don't take a job more than 10 miles away. You'll be stuck in traffic for an hour each way. And that adds up to 10 hours a week. So to really think about it, now we have an entire world of opportunity because we can work from home, we can work hybrid, we can work in different ways. So people are having to think differently. So that's been a challenge.
Yeah, really interesting. Nadine, what's your experiences?
Okay, so my experiences are, the first thing that I noticed and what's happening is that all of a sudden the family and the meaning of family and friends was really upfront, because during the lockdown, all of a sudden you're locked down and you're actually spending time as family, because before that, the family and the definition of family, it kind of like, it wasn't there anymore. It was not like the traditional state of the family. So one of the good things that the lockdown did is it bonded the family more, because obviously there's no going out, there's everything. So you ended up talking to one another, believe it or not. So really some families actually had to, spend more time, which was something forgotten, bizarre as it may be. So that brought families together. And the other thing that I clearly noticed is that mental health became a big thing, because people who would not talk about it and not have any issues started having issues, because obviously this whole lockdown, introverts started having problems with not seeing people, let alone extroverts, so that tells you something, it's the human factor and the human connection. And here in Egypt now, people are actually talking, oh, my therapist says this. Before that, it was not said. It was, if you're going to a therapist, you would never mention it. You'd not talk about it. But now it's bringing it all on the table. And I think, Liz, you mentioned it, the companies are looking into the well-being, and this is really interesting. And I've been briefed. I have doing a startup with some of my partners that's providing leadership development programs and something about well-being and happiness and well-being. And people are asking us for it. There's a need that you want programs to install well-being in the company. So I think that really is thanks to COVID. It had a very bad negative impact on the mental health of so many. Even those who are doing okay started not being okay. And those who are not okay got even worse, so that became more on the topic. And it's still not over, because obviously there's still impact, but at least it's out there, it's spoken. And obviously when it's out in the air and people are speaking about it, actions are going to start happening, and hopefully things are going to be improving. And I'm very positive on this matter, because obviously it has to be tackled, because otherwise, things are not going to be good. But however, I think we're on the right direction, you know. So everything happens. There's a silver lining to everything. So this pandemic, it had really tough. People lost their jobs. Our families came back together. You know, people who didn't have mental health problems are starting to have mental health problems. However, now those who had mental health problems are more comfortable saying, I'm my therapist, because they were more in the, you know, shut up. So there's always a bright side to it. So that's my take on that.
It's interesting, actually. You reminded me that it's brought a real vulnerability to some leadership, I think, because, and I was reminded hearing you then about bringing families together. I've been coaching a chief exec, and he actually broke down one day and said the impact of being of the COVID meant that he's had to work from home, and he spent time with his wife more than any other time in his life, and it's brought them so closely together. He was really, really touched to the point where he was in tears, and you think, gosh, wow. So your point, that silver lining, absolutely, that bringing, if you get on with your family, great. I think it's also been a huge rise in separations as well, hasn't it? But I think that's a really interesting component. So let's talk about the kind of whole resilience that we know is a huge word out there at the moment, and how we've had to have this kind of bounce back ability and this grit and helping people cope with mental health. And I know in our pre-chat, Harriet, you had some interesting perspective on that, but I'll come to you in a minute, actually, because I know you'll turn the tables in a little while. So let's talk to Nadine and Liz about the whole resilience piece, and how what thoughts and ideas do you think leaders need to be mindful of when we're talking about resilience? Who wants to go first?
I'll kick it off and say that the leaders that I'm coaching, because it's not just finding a job, it's getting the job. And then the coaching that pivoted for me is that I'm doing longer engagements, because people need the coaching as they transition into leadership positions. They're the new boss and they've got people to coach, and they're starting to pay it forward, which makes me really happy, because I've taught them tools and techniques, and now they're teaching it to their mid-level managers and to their employees. And I think one of the biggest takeaways that a client told me she really appreciated from me is that it's not one size fits all. It's so important for her as a manager to individually ask her employees, what can I do to support you? We're in this together. And it's sort of as even the playing field, because being on Zoom without titles, without the corner office, without the stature, they're just a new face. And so they're kind of breaking down the walls, and you're seeing into my home office, and this is my life. I've got 2 kids or a pet or an animal. And so I've been coaching a lot of my clients with this resilience going forward, is to take the time to ask their employees, what can I do to support you? And I recently had an employee who had already thought through what they needed, and then they were just waiting for the opportunity. And sure enough, the boss came to them and said, let's talk about how things are going. And, you know, one of the compromises they made for each other is to give this, it was actually a computer programmer, a half day on Friday, because he was working from home in isolation to way too many hours. And the company knew they needed to keep him. And he said, you know, can I take off a little early on a Friday and just take off and not be on call? So I think the resilience being an individual decision, an individual choice, and then opening up the lines of communication and asking people, what can I do to support you with your mental health?
I think that's great, actually, because it puts it on the map, and that whole, how do I support you? Because so often leaders just think they know the answer, and they'll say, well, the individual will just tell me if they need support. And actually, yeah, we need to do a bit more than that. Lovely. Nadine, what about you? What's been going on in your part of the world?
So when it comes to resilience, it's basically for leadership, when I always coach leaders, just always mind you that people think differently. So definitely asking them, you know, what do you need from me is very important. I'm also an Enneagram practitioner, and I was I always thought of why, when I was a bit younger, I was always thinking that there's only one way of thinking, and that's mine. And then I realized actually there are 9 different ways of thinking. There are types, the Enneagram types, there are 9, and they're completely different. So, and for happiness will mean differently for all the 9 types, because what might make you happy is not necessarily what's going to make me happy. And what you're resilient about is not going to necessarily be all right with the other person. So it's very, very important to put yourself in their shoes and try to understand their language, because it's complete.
Oh, I don't know if that's me, or let me just check.
Looks like she froze.
She did freeze. Okay.
Oh no.
I'm sure she'll be back. Let's hope she's back. Let's it's just so interesting, isn't it? It's all seeing the different global perspectives on this. I find it fascinating. Harriet, let's turn to you then. I know you've got an interesting thought around resilience. Would you like to share?
Yeah, I worry about, and actually our pre-call conversation has sparked me to write a newsletter that's going out tomorrow on this, about what I see as the weaponization of resilience. Because I think that, like so many things, companies are in danger of passing the buck, basically, and saying, well, you know, if you can't cope with the ever increasing change, workload, expectations on you, it's your fault, because we've given you resilience training and you just got to be more resilient. But actually, we're human beings and we don't have an unlimited capacity to face challenge, hardship, stress, all of that. Yes, of course, there's lots that we can do in terms of self-care and having good support networks and having a good relationship with our boss. But at the end of the day, if you have far too much being put on you, you can have resilience training until you're blue in the face and it will still be too much. And I think there is a real danger that companies pass the buck, and rather than looking internally and saying, well, we do seem to have a lot of, you know, quite a large percentage of people in certain roles who are getting signed off sick or high turnover of staff, rather than looking internally at themselves and saying, well, is there something we need to change as an organization, or do we need to hire more people, or what do we need to do other than a lunch and learn on resilience, right? They pass the buck and they go, well, it's your fault, you're not resilient enough. And I think that there's also this aspect of that can desperately affect people's confidence and ability to be resilient, is this idea that you've always got to do better and you've got to do more, that comes up with measurement culture, and it's stuff I speak on when I talk about the toxic side of perfectionism a lot. But it's this idea that if you've got to constantly produce more and achieve better and keep learning and this, that, and the other, that means there's something not okay about where you are now. And it is part of capitalism, the more culture and the productivity drive and then this and that. But I just think that we're in danger of resilience as well as achievement being weaponized, so that companies don't have to self-reflect and it's all pushed back on staff. Yeah, so I just want to throw that out there.
Thoughts on that? I think it's a really interesting point, isn't it? Because there is this kind of, everyone needs to be more resilient, and that sense of, well, you've had the resilience training, so surely you can do another 2 or 3 hours a day, or surely you can take this project on and sort it all out, you know, because you're being paid to be a leader, for God's sake. It was a really interesting point you raised on that, actually, Harriet. And anybody got any thoughts on that they're willing to share? Always good for a discussion.
I just silenced everyone. It's like one of those truth bomb moments where you're like,
no one agrees. I don't know. It's all right. We don't have.
I think I agree with terms of the. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you, and welcome back.
Welcome back.
Oh, sorry for that technical thing. I think one of the things about. Are you in the right place that Harriet was just mentioning? That is very important, because for you to be resilient and to be able to be a healthy resilience, yeah, because obviously there is an unhealthy aspect, like Harriet was mentioning, you have to be in the right place. And this is what they call grit, yeah? So if you're in the right place, you have 2 things. You have perseverance and purpose. So if you're able to get the balance of them, usually the passion is more than the passion and the perseverance. So in the end of the day, if you have the passion in the work and you're persevering, then you're going to be gritty. And the grittier ones, it's not a matter of who scored higher in the exams or who's doing better and selling more. It's more who is grittier. The ones who are grittier are the ones who actually succeed more. And I'm really enjoying the book Grit by Angela Duckworth. It's a very good book. And I turned out to be gritty myself. I did this test and I didn't know, I didn't expect that, but I was very happy to see that I'm on the high end of being gritty. So if you haven't read the book, I invite you to do get the book and find out how gritty are you, because it is this is it. How are you? Because if you're doing it with passion, you will go that extra mile. But if you're in a job that you don't have that passion, if it's 5 o'clock, then I end up going. And I also would like to question, I would really love to know who the hell created 9 to 5? Why?
It was men.
Who said that work is 9 to 5? Who? I mean, seriously, I remember when I was bringing up, but my father used to finish work around 2. We would have lunch, we'd have a siesta, and then we'd do something in the afternoon during the weekday. That was when I was the young girl. So I really don't know. Why the hell is it 9 to 5? You know, sorry, but that needs to go.
The history of the work culture is around men's hormonal cycle, around the times of day when they have energy and the times of day when they need to rest. So it's not made to go with the woman's cycle, which doesn't work like that at all. And it also assumes that there's a woman at home taking care of kids and dinner and house and all that stuff. It's not adapted, although it kind of has been forced to you, hasn't it? Which is really good. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, what I'd like to do is ask each of you for a kind of top tip, top resource, top tool that you perhaps think works really well with your clients, something that we could do as a giveaway to people who are on the call that would help them either around the whole wellbeing, resilience, mental health, or around the career decisions, or around how they have greater passion and purpose. Have you got something? I mean, I know, like me, I've probably got about 1,000 different things. So is there one that springs to mind that you'd be willing to share with everybody? So I think that'd be great. And also the resources you might use, just pop them in the chat box, and that'll be helpful. Like the grit book would be really good. Liz, let's come to you.
Okay, I had to make sure I was off mute. So one of the tools that I use, which I think is universal, is helping clients figure out what their core values are, what really motivates them, what's sort of at the foundation of when the values are in your life, you have a sense of satisfaction. And when they're not present, you have a sense of dissatisfaction. So I know years ago, the values card sorts came out. And so this is one that I use, and it's very high touch. And it's interesting because I'll send it to people in a package. And so they'll get this whole Vista kit, and then they get to kind of play with the cards, because I get a client who says, I'm a people person. I just want to help people. And then we're stuck digging into what are their interests. And so the nice thing about the Vista cards is that it's an acronym, and values is the foundation. So figuring out what motivates you, what's most important to you. And then the letter I is for interests. What's your passion? What's your interest? And then you can't do that without matching in the skill set, which is the letter S, and then the personality traits, which is T, and then it ends up with A for assessment. And I do this with almost all of my clients, whether they're career change or life change or anything, because once they've completed it, it shows up on a big board, and it's based on what's called the John Holland's theory of career development. I don't know if you can see that, but it's the Ryasic theory. And it's a theory that's been in career development for ages. So if you got a master's degree in vocational evaluation or assessment, you would have studied John Holland's theory of career development. But I think that it pulls through today in helping clients really answer the question, so tell me about yourself, or what I call the $1 million question. So if I can leave everybody with one tip of the day, it would be what I call the $1 million question, which is, write this down. What exactly are you looking for? Because if you can answer that question, it helps connect you to other people who want to know what it is you're looking for. And it's also that $1 million question in an interview, or when you're an employee and you're talking to a boss, or you're a boss talking to an employee, clearly opening lines of communication. What exactly are you looking for, boss? How can I step up? What exactly are you looking for, interviewer? Am I the right fit? And so when you can always go back to the foundation of your core values, you've got an immediate answer. So that's one tool that I share with the group.
Liz, as it's so early in the United States at the moment, have you any slots left today or tonight?
As a matter of fact, I do have 4.
Oh, look at that. We are brilliant. If anybody's feeling stuck in their career or knows of somebody, get a session with Liz booked now, okay? Right now. We want to hear it go bing, bing, bing. That's brilliant, Liz. I love that. Yeah. Really, that's a great question. Thank you for sharing that.
It's a fun tool. So I'd be glad to share it with anybody. And I even have the values on a sheet, like 20 core values. And it's a quick little exercise. So if you don't have some sort of quick, 20 values, pick your top 5, reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I can send you that document.
Marvelous. If you want to put your LinkedIn profiles in there, please do. That's a brilliant idea. Okay, Nadine, Harriet, which of you would like to share a top tip, top resource for people?
I could go. So for you to be resilient, you need to take care of yourself. So you need to do something daily. It has to be, whether be it you're doing meditation, you're doing yoga, going for a run, jogging, whatever it is, and to commit to it. This is what I do. So this is basically a calendar of all of the days, and I color it in. I decided from January 27, I've been doing yoga every day, without a day. And even when I had a problem with my back, I did yoga for strained back. It's really, really calms me, it puts me in a good mood, and it's taking care of me, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. So you cannot be resilient if you're not taking care of yourself. That's the basics. So find something. It could be cycling, it could be swimming. Everybody doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's something that gets you your me time, and you take care of yourself. That's basically an act of love for yourself. Then you'll be able to give. You cannot give when you're not taking care of yourself. And choose your battles, because there are a lot of the things that we have, probably the challenges are really not challenges. They are, even I believe there are no problems. They are problems in our head. It's how we approach things. And if we're able to take that shift in our perspective and let things be, living with the flow, everything will be okay. Everything happens for a reason. And it's just a matter of finding the learning behind what's happening for you. Because if you don't find the learning from the challenge you're going through, it's going to happen again and then again and again until you get it right. So that's my tips for everybody.
Love that. Do something every day. I love, absolutely. That will give you back your well-being. Fabulous. Thank you, Nadine. And Harriet, top tip from you.
Yeah, I think when it comes to resilience, I want people to take on board the idea that creativity is a huge part of resilience, because being able to come up with creative solutions to what's going on for you, and not always stick in like, that's the way we've always done it. Resilience is about adaptability, right? And change is about one of the only certain things in life. And I once heard the quote that this very day is the slowest rate of change that any one of us will ever experience. Change is accelerating, and it's accelerating every day. And in order to be resilient, we need to be able to adapt to that change. And that requires creative thinking and creative solutions. And to be creative, we have to be willing to take risks and not always do things the way that we've done them. And to do that, you have to not listen to your inner critic, because your inner critic is going to try and get you to play safe always. So you have to have enough self-belief that you can have enough creativity so that you can be resilient. And they're all linked. They're not separate things in separate pots. These are all, these are all really linked. And I don't want people to underestimate the value of creativity in resilience. And then I think the other thing that I'd like to say is that if you really are feeling totally maxed out, I think it's worth taking a bird's eye view of your life and saying, am I lacking in resilience? Am I really lacking in well-being here? Or genuinely, am I and everyone else expecting too much of me? Because it's not always the case that you're doing things wrong. I think it's very easy to think, I'm doing it wrong. Why is everyone else managing? But everyone else may not be managing. Or it might just be that their plate is bigger than your plate, or they've got less stuff going on at home, or they've got less whatever. And so it's okay to look at everything you've got and say, this really is too much. And there's no amount of creativity and extra self-care that's going to fix this. I need to get some stuff off my plate. So don't be afraid to push back, because and a big part of that comes in being able to set boundaries and say no and delegate and all that good stuff. And it's more than okay to do that. Just do the stuff that really matters, and yeah, let the rest go. We can't all save the whole world, you know.
Oh, love that. What amazing coaches, speakers and everything. I don't know. I think you might be full up, mightn't you, Harriet, on your sessions? I think you've got one of the sold out stickers, haven't you?
I'm not only full up, I've got people all week actually, because it went a bit bonkers. So I've got 7 sessions today, but I've also got others going on as well.
You've got a couple of sessions, and Liz has. So if anybody hasn't yet booked, please do. The booking is going to be available through till Sunday. Actually, we are going to allow some more sessions to be booked through till then. We didn't want to make this kind of go on forever, but so we thought we would extend it a little bit, because we're aware not everybody can do this particular day, but we are obviously wanting as much as we can today. And you three are fabulous women. Thank you very much. Our time is already drawn to a close, but just before we wrap, has there anybody got any questions to ask any of these 3 people, or any comments to say? That's gone so quickly. It's funny, isn't it? If anybody wants to come on, unmute themselves, or pop it in the chat box. Or if you don't have any questions, it's absolutely fine. Someone's just about to join us. Hello, Joseph. We're just about to wrap up. I want to say a really big, seriously big thank you to the work that you're doing in the world, to being here as part of the Coachathon, and to sharing your insights. As I said, hopefully you've all put your LinkedIn profile in there, so I'm sure you'll be very happy to connect with these people, with anybody afterwards. And let's keep spreading the word. And if you've enjoyed this session and you haven't yet booked a session, go book one, or get donating to Microloan. A £5 will do. Just empty your pockets, empty your wallets, and give everything you've got to this amazing charity, so we can raise lots of money and change the lives of many women in Africa. And on that note, I don't think there's any questions. I will say farewell. Marvellous. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure. And oh, before you go, do you want to know how much we've raised? Hayden.
Yes, please.
Oh, Maria.
Hello. I was just going to say, that was amazing, by the way. I was listening. Sorry, my camera was off, but thank you for that great session. Hayden, did you want to share your screen and show everyone?
Yes,
We're so close, guys.
Yeah,
We're so close.
Where are we at?
Okay.
Oh, I feel so nervous.
Sorry, Sandra, can you let me share?
Oh yeah.
What an anticlimax.
We hold everybody, don't we? On to
come on.
Okay,
let's
cool.
see what it is. What's the big reveal? Drum roll. Oh my God, that's amazing! Woohoo! We are £375 off our 20k target. We've got to hit that today. We have to.
Come on.
How many loans is that?
That's amazing.
That's 785 women that will receive a startup loan as a result of that fundraising total. 785.
Gosh, we need another 15, don't we? We've got to get that to 800 women.
Come on, we can do this. That's 15 more sessions. Come on.
Just pay it forward. Just get your wallets out and pay it forward. That's just extraordinary. Fabulous. It is every single session. It's going up. It's just brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for this session. And at 4 o'clock, if you're free, please come, because we are speaking to a loan officer in Africa, who's going to talk to us about what it's really like and how they do their training. And can't wait. I think it'll be a teary session, that one. So that'll be amazing. But thank you guys, and
thank you. So nice to see everybody.
Don't forget.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.